Annabelle isn't just a doll, she's the face of modern horror. First introduced in The Conjuring, 2013, she quickly became iconic for her glassy stare and motionless menace. Though inspired by a real-life Raggedy Ann doll, her film version is far more terrifying, designed with cracked porcelain skin, sunken eyes, and a crimson smile that hints at violence. But what really sets Annabelle apart is what lives inside her. Contrary to what most assume, she isn't possessed by a ghost. Instead, a demon latches onto her like a parasite, using her as a conduit to spread terror and death. In Annabelle 2014 and its sequels, we learned that the doll was linked to a satanic cult, and the demon's true aim is always to claim a soul. Despite being locked in a sacred glass case by demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, Annabelle continues to emanate dark energy, shaking the faith of anyone who dares stand near. She's more than cursed. She's a trap, waiting for the next victim to invite her in. Chucky doesn't haunt, he hunts. In Child's Play, 1988, the red-haired good guy doll becomes the ultimate slasher icon after serial killer Charles Lee Ray transfers his soul into it using a voodoo ritual. From that moment, the plastic smile hides a foul-mouthed, knife-wielding maniac with a thirst for blood. Chucky's charm lies in his twisted humor and brutal creativity. He's not just a killer, he's a performer, leaving a trail of carnage laced with sarcastic one-liners. What makes him terrifying isn't the supernatural premise, it's that he's relentless. Across sequels like Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, and the more serious reboot Curse of Chucky, he keeps evolving, even creating a twisted family of dolls. He's also nearly impossible to kill, always finding a way back through voodoo, technology, or pure narrative chaos. In recent years, the Chucky TV series brought him to a new generation. Still foul, still deadly, but with surprising depth and backstory. Chucky isn't just a haunted doll, he's a slasher legend with no off-switch. At first glance, Brahms looks like a delicate porcelain child, frozen in eternal innocence. But the rules around him, feed him, dress him, read to him, make it clear that this doll is no ordinary toy. In The Boy, 2016, a young American nanny named Greta arrives at a gloomy English manor, hired to care for Brahms, only to discover that he's not a child but a doll. Still, his elderly parents treat him like he's alive, and soon, so does she. When Greta begins following the bizarre list of rules, strange things start happening. Objects move, voices whisper, and Brahms seems to react emotionally. It all builds to a terrifying twist. Brahms is not haunted. He's a cover for the real Brahms, a grown man living in the walls, hiding for decades after a childhood crime. But in Brahms, The Boy 2, the story veers into supernatural territory, revealing that the doll itself holds dark energy and has corrupted children before. Brahms begins as a psychological horror and ends as a cursed artifact with a will of its own. Before Annabelle, there was Robert, the original, real-life haunted doll. His story begins in the early 1900s in Key West, Florida, where he was gifted to a boy named Robert Eugene Otto. Made by the Steiff Company in Germany, Robert wasn't mass-produced. He was one of a kind, clothed in a sailor suit with an unsettling stare. Legend says the doll was cursed by a Bahamian servant practicing black magic. After that, the Otto family reported strange occurrences, giggles in empty rooms, furniture moving on its own, and the boy blaming the doll for violent outbursts. Neighbors swore they saw Robert moving past windows when no one was home. The legend grew darker with time, and eventually, the doll ended up in the Fort East Martello Museum, where it's still displayed today, in a glass case, much like Annabelle. Visitors claim that failing to ask Robert for permission before taking a photo results in car crashes, divorces, and mysterious illnesses. The 2015 film, Robert and its sequels, fictionalized this legend, turning Robert into a relentless killer. But, truth be told, the real doll's legacy may be creepier than the movies. Lilith hides inside a sweet-looking doll, but what possesses her is ancient and hungry. In Dolly Dearest, 1991, an American family moves to Mexico to take over a doll factory, only to discover it sits on cursed ground. Beneath the building lies a tomb of the Sanzia, an ancient cult obsessed with dark spirits. When the tomb is disturbed, one of those spirits finds its way into a single doll, Dolly. The daughter, Jessica, becomes attached to the doll, and from that moment, everything shifts. She grows more aggressive, unpredictable, even violent. Her personality begins to mirror something inhuman. Meanwhile, strange accidents begin to plague the family. Doors slam, voices whisper, and something moves through the house at night. Unlike most haunted doll stories, Dolly Dearest leans hard into demonic possession and ancient evil, blending Mexican folklore with 90s horror camp. By the time the family realizes the truth, Jessica is no longer Jessica, and Dolly isn't just a doll. She's a vessel for something unspeakable, and she's not done yet. Mandy may look like just another ventriloquist dummy, but she's tied to one of the most terrifying legends in horror. And in Dead Silence, 2007, Mandy is one of many dolls created by Mary Shaw, a ventriloquist who is accused of abducting and killing a young boy. After being hunted down and murdered by angry townsfolk, Shaw vowed revenge from beyond the grave. Her twisted spirit binds itself to her dolls, using them to continue her curse. Mandy, with her blank stare and stiff jaw, is one of the most frequently seen and most dangerous. Victims who scream in the presence of Mary Shaw or her dolls are doomed to die with their tongues ripped out. The film reveals a horrifying twist. Shaw's body has been turned into a human puppet, operated from the shadows. The dolls, especially Mandy, act as her eyes and ears. What makes Mandy uniquely terrifying is that she doesn't need to move or speak to instill fear. Her silence is the warning. In the world of Dead Silence, screaming isn't just dangerous, it's fatal. Billy isn't technically haunted, but that doesn't make him any less terrifying. First appearing in Saw, 2004, Billy is the creepy ventriloquist puppet used by John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, to communicate with his victims. He rides in on a tricycle, delivers cryptic messages in that raspy voice, and always introduces one thing: a game that ends in blood. Billy doesn't have a soul of his own, but he's become a symbol of Jigsaw's twisted ideology: punishment through choice, pain, and survival. He's not the killer, but his presence always signals a trap is about to spring. The blank eyes, pale face, and spiraled red cheeks have burned into pop culture memory. Despite not being alive, Billy evolves with each sequel, appearing in more elaborate setups, even being used by Jigsaw's apprentices. While many haunted dolls act on supernatural will, Billy acts as an extension of human cruelty, and somehow that makes him even more disturbing, because the true monster isn't the doll, it's the man behind it. Susie isn't your average haunted doll, because she's not haunted at all. In the cult horror film May 2002, Susie is a glass-encased porcelain doll owned by the socially isolated and emotionally unstable Maeve Kennedy. For May, Susie is more than just a toy. She's a best friend, a confidant, and eventually a judge. The doll never moves, never speaks, but May believes Susie sees everything. She talks to her, she vents to her, and when the real world starts to reject May, Susie becomes her only refuge. That's when things break. May descends into madness, and Susie becomes the anchor, dragging her into full psychosis. The horror isn't in a ghost possessing the doll, it's in May projecting all her pain into an inanimate object. In the final act, Susie isn't just a silent witness anymore. She's the muse for May's horrifying creation. So while Susie doesn't haunt others, she haunts May, and that makes her unforgettable. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.